Hello, everyone. My name is Burcin, and I am a senior product manager at Product Velocity org at Amazon. Today, I'm going to talk to you about product life cycles and why they matter for product managers, based on my experience with product management at Amazon. So let me start with an introduction. I am originally from Turkey, and I started my career in financial services, working at one of the biggest banks in Turkey, focusing mostly on business development and international relationship management. I then moved on to a telecommunications company and worked for 3 years there, focusing again on international negotiations between carriers. And then I thought that I wanted to do something else and came to the United States to Carnegie Mellon to get my MBA degree, where I majored in entrepreneurship. And although I wanted to join a startup or start my own company, at that time, I didn't feel ready to do so. And product management at Amazon seemed like the next best option to building your own company, basically. So I joined Amazon in 2016. I've been with the company for a little longer than 4 years. As my first project at Amazon, I was responsible for the selling partner promotions in 3P business. So I built the feature set enabling sellers on Marketplace to run coupons on their products. And I managed the coupons business for a little longer than 3 years, and then recently made the move to be the product owner for Amazon Vine, which is a program that helps customers on Amazon make better informed purchasing decisions for newly launched products by basically generating authentic and unbiased customer reviews on products earlier in their life cycles, which is something that we will talk a lot about today. So that's my experience, and throughout my experience, I've been exposed to different products which were in their different phases in their product life cycles. I had to personally realize that by myself, and I wasn't very aware of the product life cycle concept at the time. So I wanted to talk about how the life cycle of the product you're working on impacts your career growth and your overall growth as a product manager. So I will start by talking about product life cycles, just like an overview of what they are. There are multiple schools if you search for product life cycles, product development life cycles, naming these stages differently. I name them the way I find appropriate based on my experience. The first stage would be conception, where you are just like working in a very ambiguous space and trying to really remove that ambiguity from your project. That is the just first step where the project is just getting seeded. The second step is design, where that ambiguity is somewhat removed, but then you are working on your requirements and the user experience and just like the system design, and all of that is happening in the second phase. And the third phase is you are going to market and you are growing, and that that is really where the magic kind of happens. And then the fourth stage is maturity, where your product has been around for a while and you are basically managing and maybe doing small iterations on the product. So two things to note here is from conception to maturity, the ambiguity is removed. So the amount of ambiguity in conception is the highest, and the amount of ambiguity at maturity is the lowest. And this kind of translates to product managers who would focus on a project, who would work on a project that is in an earlier stage to be required to have a higher experience with product management. Um, because through working through these stages, you basically pick up the experience that will be required to be able to remove that ambiguity earlier in a product stage. So as an inexperienced product manager, chances are you would be assigned to a product that would be maybe in the early stages of growth or later stages of growth or maybe at maturity. So we will now take a look at each phase in detail and really talk about what are the skills you should be focusing on in each phase. So phase one is conception. And in this phase, you are basically either given a problem statement, or if you're an entrepreneur, you have the problem statement in your mind. So this is the problem that I want to solve. And within this, you do a lot of research and you do ideation to basically come out with different ways to approach that problem. Okay, this is a problem, but chances are there are multiple ways to solve it. And then you come up with an opportunity sizing. Okay, this is a problem, but is there a viable business idea here? Is this problem worth solving? And then why is it worth solving makes you come out with your pitch. So in Amazon, this is done through a document that we call PRFAQ. But outside of Amazon, again, if you're an entrepreneur, you are basically creating an investor pitch, an investor deck, where you are explaining how big this opportunity is and why they should put their money in it. And in this phase, you are basically dealing with ambiguity. It's just a very open, blue ocean, like a white page that you can just do whatever you want with it. So really boiling the ideas down to what is feasible and what is solving the customer problem is really important and critical in this phase. And this phase requires creativity and thinking big, really thinking outside of the box and thinking how big this can be, what can be done. And then finally, influencing stakeholders, influencing your investors is really critical here. If you're in a big company, chances are you need to make asks from multiple teams in order to support your idea. So what's in it for them? How is this helping their goals? How is this helping the bigger picture in the company? So you need to include all of that in your pitch and really influence multiple stakeholders, given the fact, assuming that you are in a big company. So phase two is what you move into after you take some ambiguity out of the picture. And here you start writing your requirements. And through writing your requirements and through prioritizing those requirements, you basically come out with what is your MVP, minimally viable product, and what is your MLP, minimally lovable product. So at Amazon, we prefer to use the MLP instead of MVP because we want to emphasize to have a certain customer delight, even if it's like a very lean first launch. We believe that it should be delighting customers. So through writing these requirements, through prioritizing them, you basically present certain hypotheses and you do hypothesis testing. And then as you do the hypothesis testing, you reject or accept certain hypotheses, you go back, refine your requirements. So this is like a cycle. In this phase, you are also designing the user experience. How are the users gonna interact with your products? What is the experience gonna be through every stages of interaction? And you are preparing for your go-to-market strategy. You are probably writing a lot of documents in terms of how this product is going to function, what is going to be the support documentation, and or those marketing materials that you will make public once you launch your product. And at the later stages of this phase, you are also doing beta testing with early customers who will be your first feedback providers. They might be pointing to certain shortcomings in your design, which will help you go back and re-refine your requirements. So the PM skills that you are mostly leveraging in this phase is one, UX design. So you are probably working with UX designers while working in this phase, but as a product manager, you are responsible for really coming out with a high level user experience and communicating that to user experience designers, so that they can actually visualize and solidify that vision that you give them. System design is something that you might be more or less involved depending on how technical you are and how technical your product is. But even if you are not very technical, or the product is not very technical, at the end of the day, there will be a certain flow to how the user is gonna go through your product. And in that flow, you might be required to push your engineering team or challenge them to think differently if certain system components um, result in a bad user experience, like a latency, introducing a certain latency or a certain data not being refreshed very frequently. Those are the things you want to be hands-on as a product manager and step in where necessary. And as I've said, communications, writing, and really being able to put yourself in your customer's shoes and write in a way that addresses their potential concerns or questions, or to prevent confusion it becomes very important. And finally, seeing around the corners is basically being able to think about the edge cases in this phase. So what are the edge cases? Like, okay, I have a general design for this product, but what if a user enters a really weird data or like number or text in this field? Like, how will the system behave? So really thinking about those edge cases increases your chances of success as a product manager in this phase. Then finally, the day is here, and you are exiting phase 2 and entering phase 3, which is basically launching and growing the product. So the first thing you do in this phase is, as the product owner, you make a go, no-go decision on the launch based on your findings, the feedback that you received during the beta testing, and how you feel about the probability of success at that moment. And you execute on the public relations and mass communication. You basically tell the world that this product is now available at scale. And then you define your key performance indicators, and you set up mechanisms to be able to track them. And adoption is most probably one of your KPIs. And you basically watch KPIs and adoption and how your customer base is responding to your product. And here you move from P0 to P1 based on all of the KPI tracking, the adoption levels, and customer feedback and contacts that you are seeing. So chances are, if you are introducing a net new product to users, they will have questions, regardless of how good your help content is or how intuitive your UX design is, they will still ask questions. And it's very important to really hear what those questions are and like what that feedback is to inform your P1 requirements, which are your fast follows. So we define P0 requirements as the requirement set that makes up the MVP slash MLP. So those are the requirements you wouldn't launch with. But P1 requirements are, okay, we launched, and now how do we improve the user experience? What are our fast follow um, features and functionality? And in this phase, you are basically the PM skills you are relying on execution and orchestration. So you are probably working with a lot of stakeholders and different teams at this point. Your engineering team, the communications, the PR piece that you will work on, and um, orchestrating all of this and really having the intuition and the business acumen for execution is really critical in this phase. Marketing is critical because you are basically hitting the market. Are you using the right channels to reach your consumers? Are you using the correct language? And are you emphasizing the important benefits and what percent of the customers are actually engaging with your content? So this becomes very important in this phase as well. And data analysis is critical to basically identify the shortcomings, the potential shortcomings of your launch, and how can you improve? Which segment of customers are showing a greater interest in your product? Which segment needs to be, worked on a little bit more? What are the correct slices and dices of data? So these, and really thinking about that data holistically and strategically um, helps you succeed as a product manager because you communicate with your stakeholders and your leadership through data. Finally, customer obsession. This sounds like a very Amazonian term, but at the end of the day, I do think that this is very global. Even if you're an entrepreneur, just managing your own startup, being really obsessed about the customer and what they are asking for is really mission critical to your success. At the end of the day, you might have you might think that you have the greatest idea, and you might be very convinced that there's a problem to solve. But if that is not resonating with your customers, then you don't have a viable business. So again, you might have launched your product with a certain expectation and certain assumption, but if your customers are telling you something else, you have to listen and you have to iterate through your P1 requirements in this phase to be successful. As we move on to phase 4, this is the phase that I call the maturity, and it's, as you can see, all about maintenance, 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 maintenance. So here we are seeing a stalling growth on our product. It might be not growing, it might be shrinking. And entitlement here, means that if you go back to the first phase, we had come out with a opportunity sizing, right? We said in the design phase, if everything goes great, if I tap into the market that I'm planning to tap into, there's X amount of opportunity. Here, you are very close to actually hitting that. And you feel like there's a very limited room to grow further than this. So here, chances are this maintenance of the product is coming to a level level of effort that is kind of forcing you to rethink and think about, do I want to keep this product, keep investing in its maintenance? Do I want to sunset it, like say goodbye, adios? Or do I want to pivot this product to something else? That's a very complicated decision-making process that I'm not going to go into right now. But if you choose to pivot, basically, you might want to go back and look at your system components and see, if there's any goodness that can be used for something else. Let's say you built this fantastic machine learning model that is, you know, that is mining the data in a very meaningful way. Is there any other service or any other product that can be built just based on that service and like using that service, leveraging that service? That's kind of like the thinking you do here. And then depending on your answer, you might find yourself going back to the design phase or even the conception phase. And then you basically start over, which is a good scenario for this phase. This is a very long phase though, so you might be in the earlier stages of maturity, you might be in the later stages of maturity, but the PM skills that you will likely leverage in this phase are, the first one is operational excellence. So here, think of this as like you are operating a very big machine, and this machine has its ways. It has been set up, it has been working that way for quite some time. So you are focusing on operating this to the best of your ability and really just leveraging a lot of mechanisms to keep the lights on this and to keep it going, with maybe some incremental minor improvements. And because this is a mature product, you already should have a number of stakeholders who are using this product, who are relying on this product. And managing that stakeholder relationship, listening to what they expect to get out of this product, or their pain points about the product, that might help you make the decision to sunset or pivot. They might say, okay, we like using this, but if this was doing something else, it would really help us. So really getting that feedback into your decision-making process is very important here. And obviously, you're still doing data analysis in that decision-making process to understand if there's still opportunity to grow the business based on the adoption you're seeing, based on the performance slices and dices, like how this product is performing at different grains, and if there's opportunity to grow that particular grain in a meaningful way, is very important here. So these are the different stages, and as you've seen, there are different skills and very different roles and responsibilities in each stage. So as a product manager, then you are faced with this question of, well, can I choose which stage I will work on? The answer is both yes and no. The reason why it's a no is, as you are starting your career as a new product manager, and due to your experience being limited, you are, to my point about about ambiguity and experience levels, chances are you will be assigned to a product that might be in its later growth or early maturity stages. And then you will be required to pick up those skills and hone those skills. And in those stages, the questions that you are dealing with, the challenges, do I sunset the product? Can I build new products out of this product? Through asking those questions and through answering them, you might be able to push yourself to the earlier stages. And as you are building that experience, you are kind of like earning the right to say, I will pick and choose, and I will look for my next gig to be in a more entrepreneurial product, or I feel more confident in managing an existing product and just really doing incremental improvements and working with something that already exists. So to repeat this, earlier in your career, you probably won't be able to pick and choose, and you have to um, just pick up those skills as you go. But later in your career, you might be able to build that flexibility. And when you do, I encourage you to really use that and do what you love, because product management, product development, and management is not like a one size fits all kind of like a job. Every product is different, and the way you approach the product, the skills that you use will be very different from each other. Some skills might come more natural to you, and some skills may require more work from you. And what really is important is to you to feel excited about the product, to you to feel excited about the growth opportunities that you're looking at. So just focus on what you love, and just be mindful of the life cycles and stages of the products that you will be working on, you might be choosing to move into. So whenever you are assigned to a new product, or your product scope changes due to some internal organization, or whatever, or you are making a jump to a new product, just be mindful of that product's phase, and think about the skill set that you will be required to leverage, and whether or not you feel confident in that skill set at that moment in time. So as you are managing your product management career, and as you are basically growing in this role to become like a full stack product manager, you will through time you will pick up different skills and you will build that experience. But my message and my conclusion is just be mindful of the product's stage, and map that to your career growth. So that was my presentation today. Thank you for listening, and thank you to Product School for giving me the opportunity to talk to you about my experience. Feel free to reach out and connect with me through LinkedIn, and thank you for listening.